Yeah, hi, this is Ted Johnson. I've been working with a couple clients over the last few months and just helping them with trying to figure out a profit and loss or an estimator in regards to their business. And I thought after we had completed this that a number of other people might enjoy using it and helping them project revenue for the coming year and maybe many years to come. This particular spreadsheet is set up for a guide that's running a couple different boats. It can be set up just for one boat. You just leave one of the boat's information out of here. But let me explain how it works. It's rather simplistic. It uses Microsoft Excel. So if you have Excel on your computer or if you have Gmail, you can actually load this in using a program called Sheets into the Gmail platform, and you can edit it that way also. But over to the left-hand side, we've got a listing of the fixed costs. Now we're doing everything here on an annual basis, and so I put down a number of expenses that I believe that a lot of guides and charters will have. And so in this case, let's say that we had a boat payment on our boat number one. I've estimated that at $3,600, so we're paying $300 a month for that. Boat payment number two, let's say that we're paying $200 for that, and so I'm going to come in here and I'll change that to $2,400. And so I'll just plug that in. I've got a truck payment of $500 a month. Business insurance at $300 per month. That's probably a little steep. So let's come back down here and let's say $50. Truck insurance, maybe about $100 a month. So that'd be like $1,200. A boat maintenance account, a truck maintenance account, mortgage if you're paying it, any sort of tackle that you're replacing on an annual basis goes here. Overnight costs in the Northwest, they are spending a lot of time away from their homes, and so there's overnight costs there of overnight costs and meals. And then I've got a section in here for licenses and fees, their cell phone or your cell phone, internet costs, scouting, if you're going out and scouting different areas during the year and have expenses associated with that, we have plugged that in there. And then we put in here your income. Now, as a guide or charter, you're running a business, and so your business not only needs to take care of its expenses, it needs to take care of you. And anytime that anybody asks or tells me, you know, hey, I'm running a $36,000 profit, I'll ask them, well, now, does that include you getting paid yourself, or is that excluding that, and then you're just making $36,000 a year? And most of the time, most guides and charters I talk to, they don't include their income in a profit and loss, and you really should, because not only should it pay you, but the business needs to make a profit on top of that. And so I put in $54,000, so that's $4,500 a month. The business needs to pay your taxes also. That runs about $18,000 on that. Any professional and other types of lawyer fees and that sort of thing we put in here. Now, marketing, anything that you see here in yellow is something that you shouldn't go in and modify. In regards to marketing, most businesses spend between 5 and 10% of their gross revenue on marketing services. And so I'm split the difference there, and I'm just estimating out on revenue of using 7.5% in marketing, and that's automatically generated here. You've got advertising costs, miscellaneous, and then 3 other costs that you can just simply come in here and plug in. So if there's other types of things that you need to include in there. Now, one of the things that's not included in the fixed costs are the costs that it costs you to run a trip based on the boat that you're running. And because those are not necessarily a fixed cost, they're an operating cost. And so over here we've got a trip cost on boat number one, which happens to be a drift boat. There's no gas for that boat on a per trip basis because the gas is you at the oars. So I put 0 there. Gas for the truck of $50. Ice that you might have to buy to put into the boat every trip of $7. parking if there's parking fees, bait, and these are just averages based on the trip. So if you add all of that up, I have some other categories in here also. It's $87 to run a drift boat trip. Now, when it comes to running a sled or a power boat, you do have gas for the boat. And let's say $30 seems to be a little low because OPEC decides to raise the cost of gas, so we'll put it at $60 here. And then gas for the truck to get there, ice, parking, bait and tackle, and the others also. So your cost to run a trip on your sled boat is $157. Now, if I come over to the next column, this is the number of possible trips per month. And let me explain how this works. I have boat number 1, the drift boat, boat number 2, the sled here, and I'm just estimating out how many trips I possibly could run in the month of January. So in this case, I'm not running any rivers, I'm just running my sled, and the fish aren't necessarily in any great numbers, so I'm going to say I can run a possible 15 trips. February, I can run 25. Now, in the month of March, everything seems to be flattening out in regards to the river system, and I can start running my drift boat a little bit. And so I'm estimating I can run 10 trips there, 15 on the sled, and you get it all the way down. And this is just an estimation of how many trips you could run on an annualized basis. And with this scenario, we're coming up with 185. The system automatically totals this column, and then it says we could run a possibility of 95 drift boat trips. If I come up here to March and say, you know, I could probably run 15 trips, I'll just change that to 15, and then it automatically changes the number down here to the total number of trips I could run. Now, we all know that you'll never run that many trips. There will be reasons that you won't, whether it's personal reasons, weather reasons, you've got your client that cancels at the last moment and that sort of thing. So we have then put in down here an estimation of the trips that you'll actually run. And so instead of running the total 100, we're only running 60. And the number of sled trips, instead of 185, we're running 120. And that becomes a more realistic figure to base the revenue on in regards to estimating out a profit and loss. So I come over here to the revenue column, and I've got the revenue of the drift boat. And let's say our trip price is not $225, but it's $250. So I'll plug that in. How many people do you fish on a trip? In a drift boat, 2 is probably what most people will run. Sometimes they'll run 3, but probably not most of the time. So I'm going to estimate it out at 2. So the revenue per trip is 2 times 250, which happens to be $500. The average tip then I plug in, let's say, is $200. And so the total revenue then for a trip on an estimation is $700. Now I come to the sled, and let's say instead of $225, I'm charging $275. And I can run up to 6 people in the sled, but I'm estimating that out at 4. So the revenue on a per trip basis is about $1,100. I get about $250 in tips, and so I have a total revenue of $1,350. So now I'm totaling everything down here. So the total revenue of the boat, boat number 1, is $42,000 for all the trips that I run. If you take the $700 worth of revenue and you multiply it out by the total number of trips, which were 60, it comes up to $42,000. The daily expenses to run that boat totaled up is $5,200. So I make $3,600 in gross revenue, actually net revenue, to the business when I run my drift boat for 60 trips out of the year. If I look at the sled, I do the same thing. Now the sled I'm running more trips on, so I'm going to bring in $162,000. I'm going to spend $18,000 because I've got fuel costs and other things that go along with my sled, and so I have a net gross revenue of $143,000. So I'm bringing in $179,000. I'm adding in the 143 and the 36 as my gross revenue to the business. So I take my gross revenue and I subtract out not only the fixed costs, but of course the costs per trip are automatically calculating out. And so even though I'm paying myself $54,000 with $18,000 in taxes, I'm still running a profit of $53,000 that I can either bonus myself, or I can go back and I can reinvest in the business and that sort of thing. But let's say I come up here and I go, you know, I can't run 60 drift boat trips a year. Maybe I can only run 30. So I'll put in 30 here, and I can't run 120 sled trips. I'd be lucky in a year maybe to run 75. And so now what has been done is it says, well, at this amount of trips, I am going to run a deficit of $12,875. So I'm still paying myself $54,000, but I have $12,000 that it's going to be in the negative at the end of the year. And so I'm going to come over here and go, you know, I'm going to work just a little bit harder, and I'm going to run 85 trips, and it brings down my my loss really then to $1,800. And instead of 30 drift boat trips, I'm going to say I can run 35, and now I'm running a $1,000 profit at the end of the year. So I'm still paying myself $54,000, and out of all the expenses and the estimated trip cost, I'm still putting another $1,000 in my pocket. And I go, you know, the wife's not going to be happy with an extra $1,000 bucks. So I'm going to come up here to the trip price, and I'm going to make the drift boat price $265, and the trip price for the sled of $295. I haven't changed the number of trips that I'm doing, but now I have an estimated profit of $8,257. So anyway, follow the instructions, and you too can download this into your computer and play to your heart's content. Love to have you comment on this and let me know what you think. Anyway, tight lines to everybody. It's the holiday season in 2016 when this is being recorded, so Merry Christmas to everybody, and thanks again.